Shalom.
ChallengingPerceptions.org, challenging godlessness in the church with biblical perceptions. The sacred cow I want to focus on this time is hopefully some basic, well-known, Googleable facts will give you the strength necessary to tip this sacred cow on your own. Without truth, there's no justice. Facts are the baby steps necessary to move in the direction of truth. Justice and truth are inversely proportional. Truth goes up, injustice goes down. Since injustice is currently way high, truth has to be way low. To say you're concerned about the injustice you see without pursuing truth is irresponsible at best. I am not talking about your truth or my truth. That just refers to the amount of truth we're comfortable with. It's just another nice sounding way to repackage relativism and sever truth's connection to our Creator. Man's perspective is being given the weight of God's perspective. It is idolatry. So, let's look at today's sacred cow. To start with, the majority of the Jews are Jews culturally, not religiously. Nearly half of Jewish people do not even believe there is a God. Those who do practice Judaism do not use the Old Testament. They use the Talmud, the oral law. Those who do practice Judaism according to the Old Testament are a very small minority. They are considered heretics. They're called Karaites. As far as Christians adhering to the New Testament, most Christians believe one of the many false doctrines built upon the fallacy that Jews adhere to the Old Testament, a hodgepodge of Catholic canons and denominational traditions. The New Testament has little to do with what most church folks practice today. See, if you believe that the Jews adhere to the Old Testament, then you can be told that the New Testament is about being freed from the Old Testament. You'll think that the Messiah was arguing with the religious leaders about adherence to the Old Testament. The conflict was about their adherence to the oral law as opposed to the written law that God gave through Moshe. If you believe that Jewish people adhere to the Old Testament, you can actually be told that the Messiah had a problem with Jews. You can be told that the Messiah had a problem with the instructions in the Torah about how to feed your body. You'll believe that the Sabbath is a restriction that Messiah Yeshua was freeing us from. And you will choose anti-Christ doctrines of those who crucified our Messiah over the written Torah. The actual name of the Messiah will become unimportant to you. The Father's name, unnecessary. You might even come to believe that it's more reverent not to say it. Are many diseases being healed? Or are we addressing those diseases with less than effective pharmaceuticals that take something else from our body while giving us temporary relief? Are evil spirits being cast out? Or are we institutionalizing those who are possessed or shooting them because we don't know what to do when we see an evil spirit manifest? Are the blind seeing? Are the lame walking? Is leprosy being healed? Can the deaf hear? Are the dead being raised? Is the good news of the Messiah being told to the poor, or mainly to those with some money in their pocket? Are those things happening God's way and in biblical proportions? There is obviously a problem with the degree of truth adhered to and displayed by the church. You can't say you're born again spiritually and choose tradition over facts. The truth always matters. Facts are important. So, most Jews do not adhere to the Old Testament, and the Jewish leaders that Messiah Yeshua was talking to in the Gospels did not adhere to the Old Testament. Christianity is not about the New Testament, and as a result, most Christians do not adhere to the New Testament. What are you going to do about it? ChallengingPerceptions.org. Challenging godlessness in the church with biblical